Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Unlocked Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. Today, you guys are in for a super treat. I have just had the amazing Kevin behind the scenes. We'll be talking all things business and personal. And boy, you guys are going to hear all about what Kevin does with business owners these days. If you are somebody who feels a little bit like your life is in chaos or your business is in chaos, and what you really want is some level of freedom, because let's face it, guys, it's not the joy or why we decided that we were going to become business owners, right? We didn't want to be tied down to a 9 to 5 job. We wanted to create our own level of freedom, our own level of fun, our own level of lifestyle, or whatever that means for you. That's what we wanted. And somewhere along the line, sometimes we get a little bit lost, a little bit, wobbly. We end up in the land of chaos, and we are just kind of looking to the stars, hoping like heck that somehow we're going to be able to make our way back to freedom. Now, that's exactly what Kevin does. He works with successful business leaders, with very avid business leaders, but that may have lost their way a little bit, and that he's able to help them find their way back to freedom. And whilst doing that, really be able to embrace and really enjoy your own journey, becoming the hero of your own journey. So I want to welcome to the show this morning, Kevin Keppel, all the way from Dallas, Texas, here to talk to us about how you can become the hero of your journey. Welcome to the show, Kevin. Great to have you here.
Thanks for the welcome. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I know. The craziness of the internet, right, means that we're able to jump on, and it could be early hours of the morning for me here, and late in the evening for you there. So how about we sort of start with how you even got into doing what you're doing now, and the type of people that you work with these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So take a trip back in time really quick, to about 10, 15 years ago. And I was working a job that I thought was going to be my career for the rest of my life. I was having success and all was good. And then all of a sudden I wasn't having success and I couldn't figure it out. I felt like I was doing the same things in the same way, but the harder I tried, the less results I was getting. And, at the time I didn't realize that I was actually sabotaging myself because I really didn't want to be there. I just didn't understand that. And fortunately, I did have the wherewithal to hire a business coach. And, he asked me a great question. He's like, "What do you love about what you do?" And I was, responded with, "I love this. I love that. Blah, 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 blah. I love it all." Right. And he looked at me and didn't say anything for about, felt like 20 minutes. And he had this way of looking at people. He had been in the Secret Service, for like 30 years. And so he's really good at standing still and not moving. And I was like, what? And he goes, "Man, I don't even think you like your job, much less love it." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Dude, when you talk about it, you sink down in your chair, your body language changed. You won't even look me in the eye." I was like, "Well, these things could be better." And long story short, I really was unhappy. I found something I was really good at, and I was in that zone of like excellence, but I was preventing myself from going to the zone of genius. And I kind of started self-sabotaging. And really, he helped me get clear on what was important to me, what I really liked. And obviously, I really like helping people, which we all do. But, how do we get paid for that? And, we figured out that, I was going to be more in line with being a coach and really helping people, be their version of amazing, whatever that looked like. And so I found, another role with another company as a sales trainer and a leadership educator. And I did that for a few years, and I got very proficient at it. And I stepped over and started my own business a few years ago. And, so much happier because I'm working on purpose. I'm doing something I'm absolutely passionate about, but I found a way to mix generosity into it, and I get to serve other people. And, it's not that every day I'm sliding down rainbows on the way to work at the Unicorn Ranch, but man, it's a lot better than a stick in the eye when you're doing something that, you wake up at 4:30 in the morning excited to do, as opposed to, that Sunday night where you don't go to sleep because you're like, "Man, if I go to bed, I have to get up tomorrow and do that thing that I don't want to do, maybe with those people I don't want to be with." And that question of is this really it? This is why I went to college. This is why I've worked so hard. And I'm like, no, that's not it. And I knew there was more. I just had no idea how to get to more, but I figured it out for myself. And now I've done it for hundreds of other people. And I absolutely love what I get to do. Even on hard days, it's still, one of the coolest things in the world to get to help people be more without making them feel like less.
Isn't it interesting that, and maybe some listeners here today, will be able to resonate with this, is that we try to convince ourselves that whatever situation we are in, like, it's okay, we're doing it. I actually love what I'm doing, because we're almost trained to say that you enjoy your job. Because if you don't, gosh, there must be something wrong with you, right? So we start trying to convince ourselves. But how interesting, someone's able to sit back and actually observe and go, yeah, nice that you say that, Kevin, but I don't think you do. And because
Yeah.
of all of these other reasons, that I'm noticing about you, there's just not that level of it, that the level of enthusiasm is not oozing out of you like it does now, because you're doing what you do, and you're living with, in your job, and your business nowadays has purpose to it. So I'm really interested in, you got to that point where you were like, oh my God, okay, I'm self-sabotaging. How did you know that? How did you like realize, and what were some of the signs that you were like, oh my gosh? And maybe you didn't know back then that that's what you were doing, but somewhere along the
Right.
line, right, you were like, oh, I get it. That's what I was doing. What were the
Yeah.
signs back then?
Well, the signs were the results. The results, went from the upward trajectory to very down, because I was in a sales role. I was also the director of sales. So I had, a lot of people on my team, and these people that I loved, that I was poured into, they were like, "Hey, what's wrong? What are you talking about? Well, nothing's wrong." They're like, "Man, just something's changed." And like, I kept hearing that from people I spent the most time with. And it was that law of diminishing returns. Like, the harder I worked, the less results I was getting. And I was just really, really mismatched with my, life's purpose. And like you said, I didn't understand that at the time, but I took the Strength Finders assessment, if you know what that is, and it just
Mhm.
identifies your natural talents, right? And I was looking at it, and I'm like, man, I'm not really supposed to be doing any of these things that I'm doing. Like, that's way outside my zone of genius. And, I'm trying to be all these things I'm not. And so, of course, I'm frustrated. And I finally felt like, after taking that, I had permission to be me and not have to try to be good at everything. Because if I'm trying to be good at everything, I'm going to be like average at best, because I'm pandering to the middle. And I wasn't created to be average. And if I want to be above average, I have to treat myself above average. I was created to be exceptional, just like you and everybody listening. And I'm not going to be exceptional at everything. Like, I will never be an exceptional fisherman, and I have no desire to fish. Like, I almost fell asleep saying the word fishing, right? It's not for me, and that's okay. But my brother loves fishing, and I used to always find myself doing it because he liked it, and I felt like something was wrong with me because I didn't like it. But you know what? We're different people, and that's okay. We have different gifts, different skills. And I went to Gallup's coaching school for Strength Finders years
Mhm.
ago, and now I'm certified through Gallup, and I've coached thousands of people with that tool, because man, it's so phenomenal to, help. It's not a complete portrait of your character. It's like, here's your natural talents, and talent's not rare. I've never seen a blank Strength Finder report, right? There's always 34 listed, just a different order. What's rare is people who've developed those talents into strengths, and they know how to use those on demand. And it's such a phenomenal tool, because it allows you to really see exactly what it looks like when you crush it, and exactly what it looks like when you completely sabotage yourself and give away all your power.
Absolutely. You reminded me, I'm actually accredited for Gallup too. I did that
Oh,
and I
cool.
had completely forgotten that I had done that some years ago in my corporate career, because, like you, I was a sales coach and leader and manager of a bunch of people. So I'm interested. Like, one of the things you talk about is like this, what differentiates a manager from a leader, and I'm listening to the story that you're telling around, I was really good at my job. And what triggered me to realize that, hey, something's not quite right here, was that my results started to drop. And the feedback that I was getting from people wasn't, my normal, oh my God, you're amazing. And maybe somewhere along that line, there was this almost dropping back into management, and maybe you were in the leadership space doing all the things, and people were on board, and then all of a sudden, somehow, maybe monotony got in the road, and you drop back into that lead and back into a management type role. So I want to talk a little bit about like what you define as the difference between management and leadership.
Yeah, that's a really great question and a really astute observation. And I'd love to know what your top strengths were, if you happen to know those off the top of your head, from the report. But we could talk about that later, unless you know now.
Mhm. Oh, I've got to remember. Gosh, I've done multiple of those sorts of things for a long time. But, you know, so I'm trying to think whether it's a Myers-Briggs or was it the Gallup? Was it the
Yeah,
Gallup one? Because it's been a long time.
yeah,
But I mean, my strengths are definitely were in leadership. They were in creativity, in communication. So those
yeah,
were. And
yeah,
what was quite interesting, actually, is that at the time of me doing that particular Strengths Finder, I was actually in a role that was an auditing type role. And like
yeah,
you, it was like, okay, I can do it.
yeah.
And funnily enough, I've run awards for being in that role. Like I was recognized at the highest level in the organization. But when I looked at my strengths finder, it was like, yeah, that's not your natural strengths. Your natural strengths are way over there. But I had trained myself to do certain things that made
Yeah.
me good at that
Yeah.
particular job.
Well,
Mm.
it's like through sheer effort, right? We just like make it happen, and that's when you're grinding it out, and you shouldn't be grinding it out. Like it shouldn't be grind. Some days are gonna be hard, sure, but you know what? Like when you're living in your zone of genius, it should be fairly effortless, and
Mm.
effortless can be strenuous at the same time. Yes, but if it's a grind, that's a pretty key indicator you might be kind of on the wrong path. But going back to your question, manager versus leader, like what a
Mm.
great observation. And a manager's the simple way to know if you're managing is, are you telling people what to do? Like that's
Mm.
managing, right? Leading is empowering people and inspiring people. Because if you inspire, you stimulate to action, you empower, you help them know what to do with that stimulation. And a manager solves people's problems for them. A leader empowers people to solve their own problems. Because if I solve all your problems for you as a leader, then I have to solve all your problems for you. And the only time problems get solved is when I'm around. And that does not foster creativity. That fosters competition almost because you're striving to be like me, the manager. And there's only one me, and you don't need to be like me, you need to be like you. Like, Steve Jobs had such a brilliant quote. He said, we don't hire smart people to tell them what to do, we hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. Like if you feel like you're the smartest person in the room, like probably not, number one. Number two, you need to hire better people, because hopefully I'm not the smartest person. Like I might be in like some areas, but people are very talented in different ways. And so smart's such an obscure subjective thing anyways. Like that's a vanity. And there's a great book, Power versus Force by David Hawkins. You might have read that before, or Letting Go is really probably the better one that he's written. It's a little more advanced, but he talks about power versus force in that book. And power is powerful by definition. Like if my front door is locked and I don't have a key and I kick it open, that's force. And there's always counter force to force. And I have to fix the door. I have to fix my leg probably that I kicked the door with. But if I have a key, it's so small and so powerful, and it's usually silent, right? Like when I powerfully inspire and empower, I'm not forcing you to do anything. That's control, right? And I don't know about you, but I do not like to be controlled.
Mhm.
Autonomy is one of the most fundamental needs of humans, the desire for freedom, the desire to direct our own lives. And every time you tell me what to do and control me, you restrict my autonomy. And so everything, below courage is force in the pyramid that David Hawkins puts in this book. And it's so brilliant. And the first step to power is courage. And courage is not the absence of fear, it's action in spite of it. And so that's all you have to do is take some action. And that's the first step into your owning your power. And it's such a beautiful thought. Like it's not having all the answers. I've never had a leader. I'm like, man, they knew everything. And they always, told me what to do every day. And it was awesome. Like, man, the best leaders are the ones that helped me win my way and, held the space of belief for me. Like, hey, I see you here. And they helped me go way past the previous limits that I had set for myself, because any limits we have, they're self-imposed. We are infinite by nature. And any decision that you make to put borders around that, your limiting beliefs, that's just self-perceived. And so I think it's so crucial that, we really learn to let go and live in that infinite space, because that's creativity. And that's where you find access to happiness and aliveness.
And I think, as people are sitting back and they're listening to, you talk today, maybe some of them are even going, oh gosh, I feel like that. I don't know how many times I've heard, business owners and leaders say, why do I always have to tell them what to do? Like I feel and find myself constantly having to do that. And that's quite likely because you're created that through being a manager and not really stepping back and, as you say, holding space and really understanding what is the What are the levels of geniuses that I have in my business right now? What are their unique and innate skills and attributes that they have that could really, take this business and that individual to new heights? What do I need to do to help, unleash, uncover, and empower them to do that? So I think it's going to be quite interesting. Today I feel as though it's going to be a bit of a reflection time for a lot of people to just sit back and think about from a leadership or from a leadership standpoint. What am I doing to really create an environment that allows myself and everybody else around me to flourish?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a powerful question. I think you touched on the whole secret to it. The not so secret is, kind of get yourself out of the way and sit back and create that safe space for people to be creative. There's like this great thought that I like to kind of help people understand, what it looks like to get, really transformational impact with your leadership. And it's the influence equation, if you will. And it's going to sound familiar when I share it because, most young leaders, especially myself included, when I was first a leader, I just started telling people what to do because that's what my leader did. And I thought that's what leadership was. And that's like the backwards way to do the influence equation. The influence equation goes like this. It goes trust, connection, vision. But if I'm just telling you what to do, that's vision first, right? Hey, here's where we're going. Go get it. And if you're not connected to it, like you may do it when I'm around, but you're probably not going to do it for long when I'm not around because you're not connected to it. And the reason it starts with trust, trust is so important. Like one of the number one question people are asking in their heads, even if they don't know it, is of a leader, internally, it's like, do you like me? Right? Because what if the leader doesn't like me, then I don't feel safe. And if I don't feel safe, I don't feel like what's important to me is important to you. And if I don't feel safe, I don't feel safe to be vulnerable. I don't feel safe to grow. Therefore, I don't feel safe to go outside my comfort zone. So I'm going to keep recycling the past over and over again because it's safe and it's known. And I'm going to get basically the same result, if that. And I'm going to get bored and frustrated. But if I trust you, that's when I start feeling connected to you. And when I really believe that you can help me get what I want and that that's important to you, the leader, what's important to me is important to you, that's when I really feel connected to your vision. And that's when I'll co-create your vision with you. And when you have a team co-creating a vision together, where it's a team of 2 or 200, 2 million, whatever, that's beautiful because you have co-elevation where people grow as individuals and they grow together as a team. And that's how you create a championship, no matter if it's a little league team or, Microsoft. People have to grow as individuals and grow together as a team if you truly want to create the impact that you're capable of making.
And you often see this, don't you, Kevin, particularly with high or elite sports teams. They start with, right, we've got to build the trust of the team. I need to trust that my, I don't know if I can use a rugby league sort of analogy here, but, I've got to trust that my winger is going to be there when I'm going to, just take a chance and throw that ball, and I just know that he's going to be there on my right to be able to score that try. I know that, if I go in for a tackle, that my buddies are going to be there to be able to, rugby union, blow over and be able to get rid of the opposition so that I'm actually safe. So, I mean, all of those things, we see that in elite sports teams, we see that in highly successful businesses, starting with that level of trust. I trust you. I know that I got you got my back, I got your back. We're on the same page, and you've built that really strong, those strong connections. And now I'm like, I get it. I understand where you're trying to take us, Kevin. I'm on board. Let's go. That's really the sort of thing that that gets created when you think about it in this way.
I love your rugby analogy, by the way. Thank you for sharing that.
Sorry. That may not have been universal for everybody all over the world, but us New Zealanders and Australians are a bit rugby and rugby league men. So just
all black, right?
So, you got it. The All Blacks, you got it. Absolutely. So I want to. Can you give some examples of maybe even you may have even seen some teams after working with lots of people that maybe the business owners come to you and it's been a little bit broken, it's a bit chaotic, things haven't gone quite the way that it needed to. What sort of things can you do to start repairing and recovering from the chaos that actually helps you to get to a point where, oh my gosh, okay, now I'm in the leadership space, things are improving, and my team is on board. and things are starting to go well. I'm getting a little bit of freedom back.
Yeah, that's a great question. I am fortunate enough to work with, well, one of my coaching consulting clients is about a company of about 250 people, and I started working with them, gosh, almost 3 years ago. And I worked with the sales team and the CEO first, and graduated to working with all the leadership team, and now my team and I work all the way down through managers and leads, all the way through the CEO. And whenever we started working together, it was they have, gosh, I think they have about 8 or 9 different departments in the company total, and they had basically 8 separate units. They were operating independently, siloed from each other, and almost like at war with each other. Like, hey, like they're always against me and whatever. And there just wasn't very good communication, and people weren't just seeing each other accurately. They all wanted the same thing, and they're all really good people. It's not like it was malicious or anything like that. They were trying to protect themselves because that was kind of how it had just manifested. And so really started with just helping everybody see, who they are and how they're showing up, and how that can be good and how that could land on people in a way that maybe is, breaking that trust and not connecting, and where other people are coming from. And it just built so much transparency. And like, any conflict resolution, I think the best place you can start is, okay, like, what do we absolutely agree on, right? Where's the agreement at that we both totally agree with? And then let's work backwards. And they all agreed that they wanted to take this company to the next level, and it pretty much agreed what that looked like. A little bit of difference, but more or less the same thing. And like, okay, this is what we all want. And we all want to have jobs where we feel fulfilled and we're kind to each other and we have community. And okay, like, well, what is stopping that? I think that's always a great question, because perfection's attained not when there's no more that we can add, but no more that we can take away. And so what are we doing that's not allowing us to connect and to grow in the way we want? And really just get people communicating. Like, and I think one of the things that so many people don't get is they just don't get heard. Like when you're frustrated and people won't listen to you, I don't even need a solution. I just need to be heard sometimes. Like, if you call some customer service for something that just doesn't go right for you, and you're trying to explain yourself and the person's talking over you constantly, you're like, can I just please finish? Can I just be heard? Like, I don't need you to tell me why I'm wrong or why you're right or any of that, right? Just listen. That's all you got to do. That's it. But, it ends up way worse off if you don't feel like you're heard, whether it's, you're a customer or an employee or a coworker. And so, just showing other people that, hey, what's important to you is important to me. Like, you might not get your way, but you know what? I'm going to be very intentional about being kind as opposed to being right. And that's one thing that it took me a long time to understand. It's not about being right. It's about being kind. And it took me 30 years, I think, to learn how to say, I don't know, and mean it. But you know what? Like, that's the best phrase I think I've ever learned. Like, I don't know. I don't know all the answers. Like, and that's okay. Like, I don't have to have all the answers. I know where to get them. I have Google, right? And,
Yeah.
it's only facts on the internet. So that's the good news. That's a joke.
Yeah. I got that.
Yeah. That was for the listeners, just in case. Disclaimer.
So what I love about this is that the natural tendency, I think, for a lot of people to do in a situation like that would be, excuse me, is to get everybody together. Let's have a meeting. Let's talk about, so what's wrong, right? And they would start there. What's wrong? And what that tends to do, right? And I think this is why you're like, we have to do this completely backwards, because most people are doing it. They're doing it backwards, and it actually creates more of a problem than it does getting you to the point of solution. So when you start in that space of, all right, let's get everybody together. Clearly there's something going on here. There's something wrong. It just allows everybody to kind of, throw their 10 cents worth of wrong into the mix, and you end up with a big, I was going to say shit pie, but you end up with something like that. That's a real problem, right? And it's really difficult then to get everybody to eat that pie because nobody wants it. So with what with what you're talking about, it's like, okay, well, let's come together. Let's find the common ground. Like, where is that? What is it that we're all on the same page about? Getting everybody on the same page, creating that North Star of that's where we're headed. We all want the same thing. So now what do we have to do to get there? What does that actually look like? And getting people to talk about. So I love that concept, because I think if people just take that one piece of advice of that scenario that you've just given today, and they adopt that and they start approaching their challenges in their business, the chaos that they might be feeling from that perspective, it will change everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you touched on such a good point. When we focus on what's wrong, like whatever we focus on, we instantly create more of. And, like whatever we're focused on, that's what we're going to pay attention to because, whether it's good or bad, whatever you recognize, that's what gets improved or create, done more of. And that's why recognition is important. Recognize the things you do want to see more of. And I think it's really powerful when you focus on, like what's working and what do we all want. That purpose is so cool because when you have a shared purpose like that, it pulls people outside of themselves. And when I'm focused on the whole, like there's less time for me to worry about what's in it for me or what's not in it for me. But all that other stuff falls away because so many of the objections that people have, they're not really the actual objection, right? The objection is they're unhappy because they're not moving towards whatever better looks like. But it's really powerful when you can tie in, my inner purpose to the outer purpose of the company or the community or whatever it is, because we all share the same inner purpose. And I used to like miss this totally. Like, I'm like, I got to find like, what do you want in life? What's your purpose? Well, I got to find the best purpose ever because I only have this one life. And, like, dude, you have like so many outer purposes. Like I have, outer purpose of a brother, husband, friend, whatever, business owner. But the inner purpose is the same for me and Tracy and everyone listening. It's to be the very best version of us so that we can serve at the highest level. The more we grow, the more we can give. That's why we were given all these gifts, not to like sit around and feel good about ourselves and break our arm, patting ourselves on the back. It's so that we can serve all these outer purposes in our unique way and really be the biggest part of the solution we can be. And man, that's total freedom. When you're living life your way, no one is ever going to beat you in this world at being you. You have the market totally cornered on that.
Totally. And I think a lot of the time, particularly when you're in business, when you're starting out, that we have this natural tendency to go and have a look at what's everybody else doing, what's my competition doing, what's so and so whom I know is doing really well, and we start to do, we go down the rabbit hole of comparison, and we forget that actually we're comparing, you're comparing apples and oranges because that person has been maybe on a completely different journey. Right? They've been on a completely different journey, completely different inner genius, completely different set of circumstances, completely different timing. They're at a different time in their journey than you are. So I want to talk now about, the journey, because that's a great segue for us now to kind of talk about that. How do we, often as people, we don't always take the time to appreciate the journey that we have been on. So how does one start to recognize, acknowledge, and I suppose be proud of the journey that they have been on and be able to use that journey to say, hey, this is my hero's journey, and then how do you use that to your advantage in business?
Wow, what a great question. That's very multidimensional. I think
sorry about that.
No, it's great. I love that question. I think that the one thing that gets people sideways over and over again, and like I'm human too. Like I'm part of that. Everyone is when falling for the illusion of time. It's like we start future tripping, and the only reward you get for staying stuck in the future is anxiety. And if you're stuck in the past, your reward is guilt, shame, or depression generally. And you know what? Like I've never met anybody that time traveled from the past, so the past doesn't even exist anymore. And the future, I've never met anybody from the future either, so that doesn't really exist. And so the present moment's the actual only thing we have. And that's the greatest trick in the world. Learn to surrender to the sweet spot of the present moment. But you know what? When you truly learn how to do that on a regular basis, it's beautiful because there's no regret, there's no pain in the present moment. There's just right here, right now. And our life is simply a series of present moments. And unless you're in the present moment, like you're not accessing the truth of you, because the truth of you is like present right now, right here is where we're always at. And the truth of us is love. We're all created on this infinite love, right? And when I'm creating from that place, I'm unstoppable because love is unconditional. I love myself unconditionally and I love other people unconditionally. Not I love you if you do this or if you act right, whatever right is, or if you get this job, if this success. No, I just love you, period. That doesn't mean I have to like you, right? Like that's why we have in-laws, like to practice that. That's just a joke. I love my in-laws. They're great. But you know what? Like love is love, right? And I read a quote once from John Cage. I'm not sure who that is, but it's a great quote. He said, a disciplined mind moves quickly from fear to love. Like we all experience fear. That's natural. But, very few fears are actually realistic. Like, I don't have tigers chasing me around when I'm, getting food out of the refrigerator, fortunately. If your house is on fire, yeah, get out of the house, man. But other than that, most fears are made up. And so really learning to stay present and create from that place of love, because that's how you're going to create the best expression of you. And doing it without judgment, because judgment comes from that comparison game. Maybe comparing yourself to what you thought. Like, getting fixed on outcomes is so dangerous, right? When we learn to detach from the outcome, that's powerful because there's no expectation. But if I look at, Tracy, and look at myself and feel inferior, well, I've made the judgment, right, that I'm inferior, and that's a decision. And once I've made a decision, I can no longer, create in that space, because there's a decision made about a border and a limit. Or even worse, maybe I look at Tracy and feel superior. That's another judgment, right? And so I've judged her, I've judged me, and what we judge, we can no longer understand. And that doesn't make you a bad person, because we've all done that. But to truly let go of judgment, there's always some forgiveness involved. And that's so crucial. There's forgiveness of you for making the judgment, and forgiveness of, the other person that you made the judgment of. And, like when something tragic happens to someone's family member and it's done by another person, and, maybe a mom or dad loses their child and somebody hurt them and took them away, and they forgive that person in court, or, in the papers or whatever. And I always feel like that, heartbreaking. I'm like, that, how do they do that? And they're not doing it. Maybe they're doing it for them, but they're doing it for themselves too. Forgive doesn't mean forget. It still happened. You still did this thing, but this judgment, this trapped energy that I have inside of me, it's going to be like chaos inside of me, like a bullet ricocheting around until I let it go. And I think that is one of the greatest skills in the world to learn how to do, is to let go of things. Because sorry, go ahead, Tracy.
I mean, it's super powerful, right? That whole concept of, understanding that when we're living in the past, that if you're feeling guilt, shame, and depression, it's probably because you're recreating that past over and over and over and over again in your mind. And then when we're living in the future, it's like, I'm scared of that. Well, anxiety. I'm not there yet. I need to be doing this, that, and the other. And when we allow ourselves today, live in the present moment, be present with the person that you are here with, listen, understand, and give them your time, and it does wonders for for yourself. I think that is the most there's so many gems out of today's conversation, but again, I've already said if there's one thing, but I think if there's two things you take away from today, it's that: live in the present. That's where the most amount of flow, the most amount of joy, the most amount of peace lies right here, right now, because you allow yourself to enjoy that moment and not worry about the past, nor are you worrying about the future. So I absolutely love that. When you're, and I want to sort of cross over now, because I know you are a fanatic sportsman too. Like, you love doing sports. And right at the beginning of this conversation, you were talking about, that it's almost like this discipline, this knowing these are the things that make me happy. Don't enjoy fishing, but I really enjoy, bike riding and swimming and those sorts of things. How do you become so disciplined that you become elite at something? You become exceptional at that particular thing?
Wow, what a great question. Apparently you've never seen me run or ride. I don't know if that you would say it's exceptional, but
hey, the fact that you're out there doing it. You told me that you swam from Alcatraz to over to San Francisco in that bay. Oh my God, I've seen that, and I've heard the stories. So if you've done that, that's exceptional in my books.
Yeah, thank you. I just think that it's so important that we understand the fact that, like, life is so hard sometimes. And the cool thing is we can do hard things. And, like when I was swimming from Alcatraz, I've said that maybe 50 times, right? Like, man, this is hard, but you know what? I can do hard things. And it's so cool when, you set a goal and you just consistently show up every day, and then you go get it. Like, it wasn't one training event, it was multiple. I started training for that 6 months ago in December, and I was in the pool, and I was riding, and finding hills in Texas to train on, because it was in California. It was quite a trick. And really running. I started running probably 12 years ago. I've always been into competitive sports. Like, I play hockey and baseball and football and all the the dude stuff, right? Maybe not as physical as rugby, but I think that's probably the most contact sport there is, which is so cool, man. I love watching you guys crush it at that. But my wife, when I met her, gosh, 12, 13 years ago, she was a runner, and she's like one of those people that runs. She's like a leaf blowing down the street, and she's always happy. She ran a marathon in Chicago, and she's like, "Oh, that was great." I ran 2 marathons, and I'm like, "That was awful." Like the whole time, like it was so hard. And she's just like, "But I ran. I couldn't even run a whole mile without stopping." And I was like, "This is hard." And like, she was such a great runner. And I went to get running shoes, and the woman at the store was like, "You're not running in these shoes, are you?" I'm like, "No, of course not. Like, not anymore." And I mean, I had no idea what I was doing, but I just kept showing up, and I read articles and I looked at people who are really good at it. And like the first year I started running, I ran a half marathon, and I say ran, it was a slow jog at many times, but it's not, it's just consistent, diligent effort. It's just showing up and you know doing the things that maybe other people aren't willing to do. I don't have a lot of company when I get up at 4:30 in the morning and I start working, but that's okay. Like that's the most powerful time of the day for me, is really that kind of 5 to 8 o'clock period. And I feel like, you mentioned that beautiful word flow earlier. Like I get basically 3 hours of flow every day. And in that 3 hours, they say in flow, you get up to like 500% increase in productivity, and, 200% increase in learning or more. And like, man, if I'm getting 5 hours for one, so that's pretty brilliant. So I can get 15 hours of work done in 3 hours. That's pretty phenomenal. And, like I'm sure you've had people ask you, how do you get so much done? It's because, I found out what works and I do more of that. And what doesn't work, I stop doing or evolve it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what's interesting too, like when I listen to, to you talking about how you do these things, obviously what I'm trying to unpackage, what are the little nuances? What are the things that he does that make him so exceptional? And it's interesting because I have loads and loads of really amazing people come on the show. And the one thing that I've noticed that has come up time and time and time again is consistency. And everybody says it doesn't matter where, at what point you're starting from. It doesn't matter if you've never run a mile in your life, you've never even got up a sweat when you're jogging. It doesn't matter if that's your starting point. The point is that you get started and you just keep going, and you create a regular routine that becomes a habit, and you do it consistently. And when you do that, before you know it, you're running multiple marathons a year. You're doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things that you probably never even, because you're in the present moment, you're not dreaming about doing in the future. You're actually making it happen. And I think that is the case. It doesn't matter whether it's your personal life or business, that applies to every single thing. Every day we are falling into whatever habits we created. And those habits often will create or not create the success that we desire.
Yeah, absolutely. That was like a really sophisticated way to say what I said. So thank you for clearing up the mud on that. But that's so brilliant. And the word consistency on Strength Finders, consistency is like 33 for me. There's only 34, right? It's a second from the bottom. So, it doesn't mean that that's natural for me, but, I understand that, like, hey, I might not be the fastest, but like I'm going to work hard as, everybody else, if not harder. And, hard doesn't mean that I'm going like out as hard as I possibly can every day. It just means I'm very intelligent about just showing up when I say I'm going to show up, and having integrity to myself. And, to go back to your question about being the hero of your journey, like that's consistency too. Because, basically for me, from age 15 to 30, I did everything my way through force. I was managing myself, managing other people. And what I basically was, I was the victim of my own villain. And I was a villain to other people. Like if you didn't think I was right, I was going to make you wrong. And I wasn't nice to myself. And I don't think I wasn't kind as I could be to other people. And I realized that, like that's not the way it works. It's not about me trying to be better than everyone else. It's about us winning together. And like that shift right there, that's how I moved from villain to hero. And like the hero is when you're getting guided on your journey by someone else. Fortunately, I had really patient people around me who really saw something and believed in me, and they guided me on my hero's journey. And now as a coach, I get to guide other heroes on their journey. And, I work with a coach. Actually, I'm in a mastermind with some amazing people, and I'm the hero in that group, and they guide me. And then I have a mastermind group that I host, and I'm the guide on other people's hero's journey. And so it's just being open to being more, I think, is really the crucial key to, evolving.
Absolutely. And when, isn't it interesting that you can be your own hero in your own little world, but when you start bringing in other people and you can help them create, their hero's journey, it's just such a fulfilling experience that you have, like the life, like you wake up in the morning and you enjoy it. You want to get on calls with people. You want to see, what amazing things they have done, and you want to celebrate those, those experiences with them. I think it's a fantastic way to, fantastic way to make a living. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely better than a stick in the eye. We're
Absolutely. I want to round out today's conversation with, if you were to give some advice to, maybe somebody's feeling like it is a bit of chaos right now, and they really are like, oh my God, what the heck? How did I get here, and what am I going to do next? Because sometimes, it doesn't, you get into that space where it doesn't matter which step you take. It's kind of like, I feel like I'm not going to make the right one. I don't know if you've watched that movie, what is it, Squid Games, and they're on that suspended bridge, and I know it's a crazy movie, but and they're standing there and they have to make a decision about which glass panel they are going to step on next. One of the glass panels is rock solid. They're going to make it to they make it to live another step. If they take the wrong step, this glass crushes and it's game over. So, and sometimes life can feel a little bit like that. How does one, take a deep breath and figure out where to go next? Like, what was the advice you would give someone for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. For one, like I think it's really important to understand that like it's okay, to not be okay, so to speak, right? And so many people think I need to feel a certain way to like be winning, whatever that looks like. But I think chaos is needed, and chaos is actually a good thing. And when you judge it as a bad thing, it's going to be bad because we get what we're looking for. But the reason I say that chaos is a good thing is, like we're very complex as humans. Like we're the greatest variable in the world, and we have, so many dimensions to us. We're very prolific, and any prolific multi-dimensional system, like if it's too rigid and static, then it's going to stay the same, right? And the machine is going to run the same, and you're going to be the same version of you, just a little bit different 20 years from now. And you're going to get eaten up by personal evolution, basically. I'm sorry, personal inflation, right? The world's going to revolve around you, just not the way you want it to revolve around you. But chaos is just simply alerting the system it's time for a change. And that's okay. So chaos is really needed for complexity. It's like, hey, it's okay. Maybe there's something better we can do here. So there's a little bit of chaos. And so, I think it's so important. Just take a deep breath and make sure, you're letting go of you're needing yourself to be a certain way to be okay, because that's so dangerous. Like, I don't need to, feel joy every single day to be okay. Like there's always the happiness underneath somewhere, but we cover it up with all these worries and doubts and fears. And those are the common things. Worry is the number one stopper of people evolving to the next level. They worry, what are the people going to think? They worry about, what if I fail? All these things that don't matter. Worry very rarely solves anything. If you're worrying, ask yourself this: is there anything I can do about this worry right now? Yes or no? If the answer is no, let it go. And then what we start doing is we start doubting, right? And the doubt comes in the form of like the B's, C's, and D's, right? We start blaming ourselves, blaming other people, complaining about things, doubting ourselves. And then deflection is another one that we do. It's like, oh, you're doing great, Tracy. You're like, no, everybody can do this. It's like, no, it's okay to own, your wins. Like, you don't need to like create a banner and put it on a billboard necessarily, but it's okay to celebrate a little bit. But it's really about equanimity, not getting too high, not getting too low, because that way you stay close to baseline. Because if I go way up in peaks or way down in troughs, there's either a crash or a long climb back. And so one of the best things you can ever possibly do for yourself or other people around you is to practice gratitude. And gratitude is so powerful for so many different reasons. There's so many biological reasons that it's good for us. We get dopamine, number one. Dopamine's really, really good. And when you're grateful intentionally, especially for the hard things in your life, well, number one, you have more things to be grateful for. But, when you're grateful like that, you're intentionally putting yourself into that space of love. And that's really cool because joy is right there. Joy is simply love expressed. And when you're living in that space, you're going to attract more loving situations and more joyful situations and people to you. And it's so powerful because when I'm coming from a place of love, I can just see so much better. And, if I'm going to like get on a ship and sail down to Australia to see you, and I have a map that takes me to Asia, well, then I'm not going to see you because I started with flawed information. And that's what happens when we start from fear. We're never going to get to that right destination. But when we start from love, like it may not look like what you think it should look like, but you know what? It's going to land in a pretty good place. And never have I ever had somebody around me that was, just feeling joyful and loving that, I didn't really want to be around more because it's infectious. And that's the truth of us.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, a lot of what you've talked about today has been around, our intentions and also just shifting our perspective sometimes, that perspective of, chaos has been, using that word. It's sort of like, it's a bad thing. Oh my God, everything's in chaos. But the way that you've just explained that today, and being able to shift our perspective, change our starting point of intention. So we start with the intention of, I'm starting at the starting point of love. I'm going to change my perspective around this, that chaos is not a bad thing, that it actually is just, sort of saying to me, hang on, hey, there might be some time for some change to happen here. Now, how can I go about doing that? And just approaching it in the here and now from a completely different standpoint. I think that's fantastic. And then all of a sudden, in an instant, really, you've taken someone by doing just that from being in that state of chaos to now being in a state of freedom, because now I'm at a place where I'm now feel as if I'm, I've got safety because I understand that this chaos that I'm looking at right now is not really that bad. It's just a little alarm bell saying, hey, time for some change. So therefore that brings its own level of, I'm going to say excitement, because something, often change comes with something new. It's exciting. What can I do with this? So I love the fact that you've, very instantly able to shift from that chaotic mode to, hey, now I actually do have freedom here, and I have a choice now to stay in, to keep standing on this, this pane of glass that, is chaotic, or I can take one step over there, and that's where freedom is.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. I want to make sure that everybody knows where they can find more of you, Kevin. If they've found today's conversation intriguing, which I'm sure they have, and maybe some people are feeling like, gosh, I want to be able to take my personally, professionally, I want to be able to go to the next level. I want to be able to really unlock my inner geniuses and be able to get to the next level. Where's the best place for them to go to be in contact with you? Is it kevinkeppel.us?
Yeah, that's a great place. Or Instagram, Kevin Keppel, just my name. And then my podcast, Unlock Your Freedom. Any of those spots I'm at a lot. So feel free, stop by, say hi. Love new friends.
Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. If you want to check out, if you want to hear more of this kind of conversation, then I would head on over and subscribe to Kevin's podcast. Give us that podcast name again, Kevin.
It's Unlock Your Freedom with Kevin Keppel.
Oh, Unlock Your Freedom. Love it. Have to say that because, Unlock with Tracy Wilson's the same thing. Unlock your freedom, right?
Great minds.
Or you can head on over to www.kevinkeppel.us. And, if you want to continue the conversation with Kevin, then I would highly recommend that you do that. Today has been a very interesting and enjoyable conversation. I say thank you very much for being an amazing guest. I have got, as I always do with all the guests that I have on, but gosh, you should see my scribble pad right now. It is full of, oh my goodness, so many little gems and one-liners that you've dropped, which has been amazing. So thanks very much. I hope you don't melt too much over there in the very hot Texas right now. And maybe we'll see you back on the Unlocked show sometime soon. Well, the Unlocked with Tracy Wilson show, because you'll be all over the Unlocked to Freedom show frequently. But thanks very much for being here. And I want to thank all of our guests for joining us today. You guys know that if you want to listen to more of the Unlocked show with me, your host Tracy Wilson, and some other amazing guests, I'm live every Wednesday and Friday, 10 a.m. Brisbane time. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the fun places. You can go find me there, and you can also go to Apple or any of your favorite podcast platforms, and you'll be able to download and subscribe to The Unlocked Show right there. So thanks very much. Thanks, Kevin. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to add today before we dial out, but I wanted to say thanks to you.
No, just thanks so much for hosting me. And if you guys are listening, you guys are in the right place. Tracy's brilliant and beautiful inside and out. So she'll take you anywhere you want to go. So thanks for
thank you very
being
much.
here, and thanks for having us.
All right, guys. Thanks for being here. We'll see you again on Friday. Bye for now.